right, Connor, welcome to the first episode of The Manifest.
Awesome.
I'm relaunching this interview series as we talk to business owners, entrepreneurs, and just creatives, and just talk about their journey, how they started,
Okay.
and what got them to this point, and if they can offer any value to other up-and-coming entrepreneurs, business owners, or creatives that can just help them along their way.
Okay, cool.
So I do appreciate you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man.
So let's just get right into it. What have you been up to lately?
Yeah, it's been a busy 2021. So coming off 2020, that was a big year for me. I guess to give people context, I work in real estate with Panda Realty. So 2020 was a big year in terms of sales. I have different kind of, I guess, income streams as well. So different little projects I'm working on. So right now I'm working on like a lead gen website, some real estate acquisitions for this year. We had a little chat before. I'm working on my taxes right now, which is a real kind of pain in the ass. So I'm keeping busy. There's lots of things on the go, so there's no shortage of action right now. So.
And how has the pandemic affected your business? We were talking back and forth on the text, and you said it's been booming. So
yeah,
what does that mean for realtors?
So right now, I guess to give you a little bit of context, we're in a seller's market right now. And we've been in a seller's market for the past couple of years, but it's really intensified in 2021. So last year we were seeing a lot of bidding wars, properties going over asking. The reason for it is there's very limited supply of listings, but there's tons of buyers. So if you're from Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, and you have all those big properties that are worth a lot of money, when you go to sell, you're going to the next kind of recessive. When I say recessive, I don't mean cheap, but say undervalued spot, which is Ottawa. So people are flooding here in the masses. Since COVID happened, we saw last March, we saw an immediate dip in the actual sales volume. It recuperated literally within a couple of months, and we were right back to those levels. And for 2021, it was just about last week, they released a stat. Year over year, we were up 33% in the residential market, which is insane. And they're saying it's highly contributed by the kind of the more luxury listings, so homes over almost like $1 million that are really contributing to that. So people with money are coming to Ottawa, and it's creating these feeding frenzies of bidding wars. So for guys like me, if you're not listing a property, you're competing against other offers on properties. So 15 offers, 20 offers, 25 offers, homes going hundreds of thousands above asking. That's kind of the climate we're in right now. Yeah.
And speaking of $1 million listings, off camera, you just said you hit your biggest sale this year. How does that feel like, and what was that like?
It's pretty cool. So it's what you kind of refer to as a creative deal as well. So I guess to give you context, so it was a beautiful semi-detached in Westboro, an infill project. So essentially what they did was a developer came in. There was a small property on a wide size lot. They wiped the slate clean. So they basically tore it down and they put up these two beautiful semi-detached at $1.2 million each. So the property is still pending severance. The severance just went through. So my client's pretty happy. He's excited to get in there. The house is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautifully maintained. They got the Terry-on warranty, and yeah, so it's a pretty exciting time, and it's a pretty good way to kick off the new year as well with a record sale. So
yeah, congratulations.
Oh,
congratulations.
Thank you.
And do you think this will continue as far as the pandemic effect on the market? Do you think it'll continue?
Yeah, that's like the number one question I get all the time. And the fact of the matter is as long as we have low supply and we have high demand, it'll continue to go up. Now, in my estimation, without getting too, I guess, businessy on camera, not that I think there's going to be a rebalancing, but come the spring when we start to see a little bit more inventory, because there's that stigma amongst sellers and buyers that the time to purchase or sell real estate is in the spring. And for someone like me, you could list your property right now and it's going to fly off the shelf. But a lot of people who aren't as in tune with the market, they're going to sit back and they're going, no, I'm going to list in the spring. So once we see a little bit more inventory there, it should subside a little bit of the competitiveness, but then the big kind of variable and the question mark is, well, how many other buyers are going to come into play in the spring as well? Because I even know for myself, I'm getting clients pre-approved, weekly, and a lot of them are setting up to start their searches in the spring. So maybe we get some more listings, but then you also get the more buyers, and then to scale, you might just see the same competitiveness. I'm hoping that we at least see like a slight rebalancing, and again, when I say rebalancing, I don't mean it's going to be easy to purchase a home, but maybe it'll be just that much easier. Yeah.
And you talked about not only being a real estate agent, investing in stocks, real estate, other businesses. On On your journey to this point, what has caused you to think and make chess moves like that?
So it's kind of, I tell this story a lot. So, obviously we've had the chat before. I was, a young varsity football player out east at Acadia University. I was very goal orientated, and like in school, like I did well in school. But I was the kind of personality where if I wasn't absolutely interested in something, it just didn't matter as much. So for me, for the longest time, it was football. Football mattered. And school, to be honest, was just kind of, I needed to get a certain GPA so I could be eligible to play. But once I graduated university and I stopped playing football, I still had that fire and that competitive drive, but I had really no means outside of, like, say, the weight room in kind of venting it. So I started with the government when I first got out of university in 2015, and I was trying to find different outlets. So at the time, what kind of got me on the finance thing was that was when the Phoenix pay fiasco first happened. So people weren't getting paid, they were getting overpaid. And for me personally, I was getting these big whopping paychecks. And one of the big issues with Phoenix was they weren't issuing people pay stubs either. So if your pay was affected, you had no idea why. So for me, I just got out of university, I was getting these big paychecks, and I just thought it was normal. And one time around the break room, we were all talking, and I mentioned, what my paychecks were, and my boss kind of got a little bit pissed. He's like, what the hell? Like, what do you mean you're getting paid that? Like, I get paid like $300 less than you bi-weekly. I'm like, okay, shit, like something's wrong here. So I dug a little deeper, and I found out they weren't taxing me on the federal level. So that was my issue. So of course I'm a saver. I save all my money. I'm not, the most luxurious guy. I just save and I invest. So I had this big bulk sum of money, and I didn't know what to do with it or how to retain it, because at tax time, the government would try to claw it back. So I basically started kind of researching into different government programs, the RSP and, different contribution channels. And I was able to contribute all that overpayment into an RSP, and I basically got to retain it all, meaning I didn't have to give it back because I was a first-time contributor. But for me, this was all new, right? And it's like the RSP program with the government is like really rudimentary, but to me, I had no idea. I had a bank account, like that's all I had, right? So I got that, and so I had this kind of like this small lump sum of money that I retained, and the first question was like, well, what am I gonna do with this? So my father, back in the 80s, he got his stockbroker's license. So he had all these books on, like on stocks and equities. And so I said, okay. So I went into my bank, I made my RSP stock capable. And from there, I researched for a year. I read, like I didn't jump right into the markets. I read for a year on investing and technical analysis and looking at the fundamentals. And that's what kind of put me on that train. So I started investing in my RSP. And then that inevitably kind of grew in this interest in investment, which then kind of translated to real estate, which kind of prompted me to get the license. And then that was a whole new avenue of kind of finance and business that I adopted. And yeah, so that's kind of what put me on the path.
So it sounds like you're calculated and patient at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you talk about your big saver, what does that look like? Because even as under 30, you have the capability of probably doing a lot of things that what's advertised on social media,
yes.
Buying a house, buying a new car,
yeah.
and all that stuff. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Like, how do you stay disciplined within that to save, to know to invest for long-term goals?
So, I mean, for me, I kind of adopted the same principles that I was taking in the government with that overpayment situation, right? So what I would do personally, and like I was living at home, a lot of people like to move out when they're out of university because they want independence, and that's great. But that comes at a pretty big cost, right? So I lived at home for a bit, and what I would do with each paycheck was I would retain $200. I'd give myself $200 for every 2 weeks. And that was my gas, that was my spending, and if friends wanted to go out and I was at the end of my limit, I didn't go out because it wasn't in the budget. My life was budgeted. Everything else was contributed into my investment portfolio. And I still kind of retain that same mantra, but now in real estate, where obviously, in real estate, you make a lot of money really quick. So to scale, I just took all the same principles I was doing when I was making a smaller sum with the government and applied it to my new career. So for me, as a young individual, and you'll hear it a lot if you read up on investment, you can be I shouldn't say you can be a little bit more risky, but you can because you have time on your side. Time is the variable when you're young. You can afford to make a couple of mistakes when you're young because you have the time to make it up. If you make a crappy investment decision, well, you're not totally out on your ass because you're not worried about retirement yet. So for me, the majority of my savings go into investment. I give myself the basis to live. I'm well budgeted. I have the mortgage on the duplex, this, that, the other thing, and everything else goes into some kind of vehicle that's going to make me more money down the line. But it's a long-term game, and I think that's kind of like the whole Instagram social media wave is people are looking for something that is very instant, right? And if you are someone who's kind of obtained some level of that, people see it as an instant process, but it takes years. And in a lot of cases, a lot of people get into these things in their 40s and 50s because they're forced to, because maybe they're private sector, they don't have a pension, they haven't been budgeting properly, and now it's time to start investing and planning for retirement. And I think the biggest thing someone can do is fresh out of university, obviously pay off your debts, but look into growing a nest egg for yourself. Because there's comfortability there too, right?
And what does that look like, a nest egg? What are some examples of those?
Well, I mean, even in terms of just researching equities, I'm a big fan of the stock market because you can do your due diligence. There's a lot of great companies out there that are, they got big market caps, they're sustainable, they pay a dividend, and they're not risky. That's the big one. So even if you go back to March when COVID first started, the entire stock market tanked, right? And it's an old investment mantra as well, when they cry, I buy. I'm trying to remember where the quote came from, but it's when there's blood in the streets, that's when you make your purchases, because the stock market is perpetuated on optimism and fear and buying and selling. So when people are scared, they sell, right? Which means something comes at a discount. So if you would have picked up any of the bank stocks in March, right? The banks they're backed by the government, they're highly secure, they pay a good dividend, and the way to think about it is they're on sale. And if you're going to hold something like that for 25 years, that's a pretty easy way to get into the market and start growing something. But you should never invest more than you're willing to lose either. And I felt, the school of pain, I've been through it too, where initially when I first started investing, I got into a lot of blue chip stocks because they were secure. And then I started dabbling in more volatile stocks, and I lost some money in volatile stocks, which kind of brought me back to center. And then the way I describe to people, your investment portfolio should be like a pyramid, right? So the base of your pyramid, which is the bulk sum of your investment, should be something that's not too risky, that's going to retain its equity, and it's going to pay you over time. But it's that long-term game, but doing the research too and being patient and knowing that you got to check yourself sometimes and realize, okay, I don't know everything, right? I got to do some research here, and yeah.
And going back to real estate a little bit, not to let the people thinking that you're still living at home, you did end up purchasing a duplex like you said before.
Exactly.
And you're kind of implementing the same strategies. It's not like you're just living on your own in this duplex. So explain that.
So I guess, to kind of give it context as well. So we're living in this duplex, and again, it's, you've been there, it's not the most luxurious place. So we're in the process of renovations right now. So the apartment complex I have has a 4-bedroom in the upper unit and a 2-bedroom unit in the basement. It's a compliant duplex. It was built in 1958. So we've already done work to the upstairs. We're working on the kitchen and the bathroom, trying to bring up that value. We've already got some serious appreciation from purchasing last year. But I guess to give people at home context in terms of the sustainability and the reason you should be doing that, we're starting with the duplex, and we're already in the position where this year we're looking to acquire something in the realm of 10 to 12 units. So like a 12-unit apartment building, that's kind of our next project for this year amongst our partnership. So we're probably going to end up incorporating as well, just to kind of manage everything and get it under one name. But it's the perfect way to subsidize your mortgage. You live for cheap, which allows you to invest in other income streams as well. So for me, the benefit when I was living at home was I could save everything. Now I have someone in my basement paying at least 75% of my mortgage, right? So I subsidize my actual payments myself, which allows me more free income to invest in other places. And if that's not for you and you're not into investing, great. But if you adopt the same principles, you now have more spending money, right? So you want to get a nicer car, you can afford it, right? You want to go out for a night on the town, you don't have to worry about it because you have somebody else who is, securely paying down the property.
And I've been around you for a little bit. We had the opportunity to work on the ending of 2020.
Yeah.
And it's like every day being around you, it's like just a burst of energy.
Yep.
Waking up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, on the phone every like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Working out after. Like, where does that energy come from? I know you talked about in the beginning, you're always goal oriented.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who are goal oriented don't always have the energies to sustain.
Yeah.
So where does that come from?
Well, we know the answer. It's coffee.
I was gonna say that, but I know it can't be just coffee like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a different type of spark.
Yes.
Just like everything's like, go,
Upbeat.
go,
Yeah.
go. Where does that come from?
So, like, I've thought about that before, too, because I know anybody who knows me knows I'm a bit eccentric, kind of weird, kind of funny. I think part of that is biological. I've always been a happy kid. Like, it's very rare to find me in a bad mood. But optimism is great in sales because you need to be optimistic, because for every one you win, especially like in this market with real estate, there's 10 that you lose, right? So if you don't have that go-get-it attitude where I'm going to get this done and I'm going to give it my best every single time, and in football, we used to refer to it as next play. If you screwed up on the first one, it was a complete mental reset, forget about it, learn from it, and then execute it the next play. So there is that component, but I kind of chalk it up to my Acadia football career as well, because I can remember, walking in, and I wasn't the best by any means, and even when I ended, I wasn't the best. But I gave myself a hierarchy structure to work my way up the ladder. And over the course of 4 years, I got to be in a position where I never thought I would be, which was actually, starting on the football field. And that was, like, to this day, investment and real estate aside, if I had to chalk up like the most monumental kind of accomplishment in my life, it's probably just playing football out east. And I'm not sure if you saw the recent interview with Tom Brady, but he says the same thing because it's the proving grounds, right? Like, that means a lot, that little microcosm of success. But it's that realization that it's like, if you can work hard for a multi-year period and get to where you want to be, like, anything's obtainable, right? You want to make $1 million, well, guess what? If you start right now and you work for years and years and years, and it's going to take time, but if you're consistent, you can get there. And like, that's a really powerful thought. And that keeps your optimism high because you know that you can do it. It just takes time and patience and hard work, right? So.
And what would you say, like, if you could go back starting in university again, like, what are some things that you would change, or would you still be the same, take the same actions, play football, invest early, learn and research? Would you still do the same things?
Honestly, I don't think I would change anything. And the reason I say that is because it's all part of the process, right? Like, to say that I wouldn't play football and I would just invest all my money and get into real estate, it wouldn't work like that because I wouldn't develop that work ethic and those time management skills. And so I would be at a deficit if I did that. So even for me, I think like, would I have taken a business program? Because like, surprise, surprise, I wasn't a business major. I studied environmental studies, right? So, and again, it was just something to kind of get me through while I was playing football. But like, I don't think I would change a thing, to be honest with you, because it was all part of the process, right? And it's all learning curves, and not everything is perfect. You do have to learn some hard lessons if you're gonna, get to where you want to be. So honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it all over again.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what are, let's say, 3 pieces of advice that you'd offer to your younger self, aka the up-and-coming entrepreneurs, up-and-coming real estate agents, creatives, etc.?
I would say number 1 is patience. Patience is a big one. The second would be hard work, but unrelenting hard work. The reason I wake up early and I typically work, perfect example, we were talking, about my taxes, how it's tax season, and it's all kind of implemented in business, but my Friday night was comprised of me sitting with my business partner, going through my taxes. And we sat there for probably 2.5, 3 hours, just crunching numbers and figuring stuff out. So yeah, patience, hard work. And I guess the third one would just be to be a general good person, be honest. And that's nobody, if you're looking to get into business and investment and, you want to accomplish things, you got to be the kind of person that, somebody is going to trust. And that kind of person is a good person, you know? And it sounds kind of, like silly and very, very simple, but it's true. No one wants to do business with someone they can't trust, or they don't like being around, or they're not genuine, right? And I chalk that up to my business as well. Is if anybody at home ever does business with me, they'll notice that what they see right now is exactly what they get out in the field. So yeah.
And where can people reach you at?
Ooh, you can follow me on Instagram, Connor.McCrudden. You can also, all my information's online, or you can send me an email at connor@bluepandarealty.com. It's CONNOR@bluepandarealty.com. And honestly, even for young entrepreneurs, if they're just looking to talk with someone and, just at least try to get their footing, like I'm happy to help people out. And, to be honest, I always feel like I'm not there yet, but I'm always willing to help people out.
And a little bit of an accountability check.
Exactly.
In the next 5 years, where can we see Connor?
Ooh, okay. So this is, I like these conversations. So I would like to think at that time I would still be in real estate. So still be in real estate, have a more, like my business is already established, but maybe have something a little bit more concrete. I would like to have more doors. Doors is the fancy way of saying more investment property. So after this one this year, the bigger multi-unit, we're probably looking to acquire maybe one a year. So a big real estate portfolio. I'd like to see how my stock portfolio develops as well.
What's the number on the real estate portfolio in the next 5 years?
In terms of properties?
Yeah, come on, we need numbers to hold you accountable.
I would kind of like to have probably between 40 and 50 doors, I'd say. So that 40 or 50 doors is, 40 to 50 units. So I already have 2, it would be the 12 this year. And if I could grow that to, like 40 or 50 doors in 5 years' time, I'd be pretty happy. And obviously it's a lofty goal, but I'm all about lofty goals because I know I can do them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Have a great day. Have yourself a coffee and get out there and do some good things.
All right. There you have it. The Manifest episode 1 in 2021 with Connor McCrudden, Blue Panda Realty Realtor. And we hope to see you soon and best of luck in the future.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.